One of the rules of wilderness navigation is to navigate all the time.
What does that mean?
As you're traveling through the wilderness with, let's say, like I'll just hold up a map as a general rule. This is a topographical map which shows features. As you're moving on a course.
Why don't you tell them more what a topographic, what the
A
lines...
topographical map is a single-dimensional representation of a 3D feature. So that on a map like this, it would show a mountain peak as like a circle. The top of a mountain with lines stacked up to it. How close those lines are together determines, those are called contour lines, determines the steepness of the terrain. So contour lines that are far apart indicate a relatively flat area. Contour lines that are stacked up very closely together on a map indicate a cliff. So as I look at this map, I can see cliffs, I can see fields, I can see roads. Blue is, of course, water. There's benchmarks on a map. They're numbers. Those are actual stakes driven to the ground with a geographical, USGS, geographical number stamped on them. Those are set points that you can always count on. You can count on several things. A benchmark's one. A cemetery's another. Those don't move. Okay?
Why would you find a cemetery out in the middle of the woods?
They're there. You might not necessarily, but if there's a road, there might be a cemetery along it. And then if you go to that cemetery, it's a known point.
Okay.
You know you are there. That's the key thing. You know what I mean? And a church is another set feature on a map that rarely changes. And those are things that, a school's another one. School's another one. Rivers change. You can't count on rivers. They change with floods. They change their course over time. Although bridges are usually pretty reliable because those are established, pretty much bulwarks and so on. So there are certain features you can look for that help you navigate. So when I say navigate all the time is, from the moment I leave the car, if I'm looking around, I can see a mountain peak over there. Okay, I can identify that with my vision. I know that if I'm traveling in a certain direction, that mountain peak should always be over, let's say, my right shoulder. And if I'm heading back to the car, of course, it would be just the opposite. It would be over my left shoulder, traveling back to the car, or back to the trailhead, okay, or whatever, okay. So, and of course, I have, you have to use a compass. Now, most people throw a compass in their pack, and they go off, okay, and they get lost.
But they don't know how to use a compass.
Well, they know how to use it. They pull it out of their pack and they hold it like this, okay? Now, what's the compass going to tell them? It's only going to tell them one thing.
Where's north?
Where's north? That's it. Is that really going to help you? If you don't know where your car is, and you're 3 miles out, you don't know where you are, if you pull out a compass, it's going to tell you where north is. Is that really going to help you? No. That's why you need to navigate all the time. So that when I walk away from the car, I might take a bearing back to the car. So I would point my direction of travel arrow at the car, bring the lines, navigation lines, even with the north needle of the compass, and look at the bearing on here. And I just said hypothetically in this chair right now, my car's parked over there, it's 240 degrees southwest. So if I go out in the woods and I pull out my compass because I'm lost and I put it on, line this up and point it at 243 degrees, guess where the car is? Follow my bearing right out.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by navigate all the time. And also, what am I seeing as I'm traveling away from the car? What features do I see?
Yeah.
Do I see a big bald ridge over here? Do I see a tower over here? How about looking ahead? I'm going to this waterfall. How do I know if I've gone by it? That's called a catching feature. So if I go by the waterfall, there's a road here. I know that if I hit that road, guess what? I've gone too far. So that's my catching. That tells me I've gone too far. I need to go back. Or I need to do something different to get to the waterfall. So, and also while you're traveling, you're looking at what's going on around me. You're not thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner that night, or or why I had gotten a fight with my wife just before I left the house, or the kids' needs, or whatever. You've got to be present. in the moment. So you can determine where you are.
I've always felt in the past, when I could do this, it was helpful for me to look, turn around and look back at where I've come from, because very often the terrain looks different when you're going back to where you came from.
Absolutely.
Than if you're going forward. You agree with me?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I say you want to be looking for, you want to be looking for prominent features, but if I'm looking at my map and I shoot a bearing to my target, let's say it's 140 degrees southeast, as I follow that bearing, like for example, if I could see the mountain I want to go to visually, I can just put my compass on the mountain, dial it in, and follow the bearing. It doesn't matter if I can't see the mountain anymore. As long as I stay on that bearing, I'm going to hit it because I've seen it.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
If I can't see, it's really thick in front of me, you can navigate from tree to tree. You can pick a tree, navigate to it. Get to that tree, navigate to another tree on the same bearing. Sometimes in a situation, a competition, where we actually compete against other people navigating, we'll send a person ahead if it's really thick, and I'll navigate to them. I'll catch up with them, then they'll go off again, and I'll navigate to them. And that way, see, sometimes they have us try to find CDs hidden under rocks. So you've really got to dial in what you're seeing in relation to where you are and what it shows on the map. I was doing a race one time with the Finns. The Finnish people are the world's best navigators.
Wow, how was that?
They invented it.
They did?
Yeah, there's a big company called Suunto. They make compasses, they make navigational aids. It's a point of national pride for them. Well, anyway, we did a competition, and I asked the Finnish guy, I said, so what'd you think about the beauty of the course? Wasn't it a beautiful place to go into and navigate around? He goes, I didn't notice it. I said, what do you mean you didn't notice? He said, I did not notice the beauty because I was too busy looking for what I was supposed to be seeing next on the map, so I could dial in where we were going. So I could find the little CD hidden under the rock, or the cache of, sometimes they stash money. My next race, they're actually burying money. So if there's a real incentive to find it. So works out pretty good. And you also have to know, there's a lot to it. There's rates of speed, how fast you travel, how much time does it take, how long should it take me to go a mile in the wilderness?
Yeah.
It depends on the terrain, but you can count on about a mile per hour is a general rule if you're bushwhacking in the wilderness. So if I know on my map, I look and I measure the distance and it shows about a mile or a kilometer or whatever, I know that if I haven't seen it after an hour, I better stop and reassess.
Do you want to explain to some of the viewers what bushwhacking means?
Just heading off. No trail, no nothing, just shucking your way through anywhere. I bushwhack all the time because I like to explore. The only way to really explore is to get off the beaten path. And so I may use an established trail, and then I look over and I see this peak. I said, I've never been up there before. So I'll take a bearing to the peak and just travel through the woods, climbing over stuff, under stuff. Some of the ridges in Vermont, since that last the ice storm is I still see evidence of that out, where you're crawling over stuff like a snowshoe rabbit, burrowing through thick spruce nests and getting your clothes all torn and you come out all scratched and bloody, and it's a lot of fun. But you've got to be willing to endure a certain degree of suffering with that, because you're not following the long trail, so to speak, or a CCC road on Mount Mansfield where it's just a piece of cake to walk up, It's not a big deal. Even though you need to pay attention on trails too, because it's easy to get hurt. It's easy to sprain an ankle or hurt a knee or something like that. You got to be in the moment. That's a key part of this whole thing. You got to be in the moment. You can't be lost in thought about somewhere else, because if you do, the next thing you know, where am I? That's what you do. You wake up and you go, let's talk about that. Well, what do you do if you get lost? The most important thing about being lost is psychological.
Don't panic?
Don't panic. Do not panic. You'll run around like a chicken with your head cut off. in circles, wasting energy, valuable energy. If you're seriously lost, the best thing to do is just sit tight. Don't walk around trying to find your way out. Stay in a certain place, do everything you can to make yourself comfortable, and wait to be rescued. That is the key. Every situation is different, don't get me wrong. If you're in an avalanche zone or there's a serious threat to your bodily health in the situation you're in, of course you've got to move. This isn't an invitation to live stupidly. It's an invitation to do the right thing. So obviously, you need to assess where you are. But you see, what happens a lot, it happens more than people realize. You got a search party going like this, chasing around you, trying to, you know what I mean? If you stay in one place, they can get to you. And of course, you were smart and you left your itinerary back with your buddy in town, and he knows where you went. So when they launch the rescue for you, they know where to go. If you don't tell anybody, good luck. That's why I said that right at the beginning of the show. If you're going to go out in the wilderness, please, please tell somebody where you're going and when you will be back. Knowing that if you fall down, of course, you're supposed to be with somebody anyway in the woods.
Not by yourself.
You're not supposed to be solo. Having said that, I've done it. Be prepared to stay overnight if you're going to do that kind of thing. Is it the right thing to do? I don't know. There's people out there who probably say, you damn fool, you're not supposed to go out there by yourself. However, I like it. So I'm going to continue to do that. But I am going to also be prepared to spend the night should I run into trouble. So that means I have enough food for several meals, a warm sleeping bag, warm clothes, everything I need to give myself shelter and spend the night if I'm going out by myself.
You're talking more about this time of the year than the winter.
I'm talking about any time of year.
Any time of the year.
Any time of year. It gets cold in the woods at night.
Yeah.
Even in July and August. And that's one of the things that sort of surprised me after I started doing this for a while, as I realized that I always carry a synthetic puffball type thing, either goose down or synthetic coat with a hood, because it gets cold at night. It gets in the 40s, 50s. That's pretty cold. And when you're depleted, because you've been moving all the time, it's certainly increased exponentially, so that it's very easy to get hypothermic. In fact, there's more hypothermia in the summer than there is in the wintertime in the mountains. People climb mountains with t-shirts on, cotton t-shirts. They're all wet and sweaty. They get to the top of a mountain. The wind is blowing like crazy, and it's whisking away all their body heat. It's called convectionary heat loss. And the next thing you know, they're hypothermic, and they lose their muscle skills, and they don't, judgment gets affected because blood flow to the brain is deterred to keep the core going, and so on and so forth, and then it goes downhill from there. And so you do the hypothermia test. How many fingers? That kind of thing, to keep people focused. But so there is more hypothermia in the summer than there is in the wintertime in the mountains for that very reason. So, plan on spending the night. That doesn't mean I still don't tell somebody when I'm going to be back. I'll be back. I'm leaving Friday night. I'll be back Sunday morning by 10. If you don't hear from me, start looking. And I'll call you as soon as I'm out. That kind of thing. Yeah, it's, there's nothing to be afraid of by going out in the wilderness. I'm not saying, certainly go there, but be prepared, that's all. Use your mind what it was meant for, to prepare you for the unexpected. And like, for example, I have, on my compass, I have a whistle. So I can alert someone.
Your whistle will carry a lot more than you're yelling, right?
Exactly, and it uses a lot more calories to yell. Takes a lot of energy to yell. And three shrill blasts on a whistle is a universally recognized symbol of distress around the world.
Wow.
So 3 shots, wait, 3 shots, three blasts, and someone knows that there's a problem. Provided you're conscious to blow the thing.
One time I had a problem on a trailless mountain in the Adirondacks, because I had heard and took seriously that there were large deposits of iron ore around, which would throw my compass off. So I didn't know whether I should believe my compass or not, and that really de-skilled me. Do you have any suggestions?
There's a possibility your needle could be thrown off, but even if it is, it's still relatively true based upon where you are.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for example, you can go and navigate, I could go navigate right now in the Green Mountains without accounting for what they call declination, which is the degree that the needle is off from due north because it doesn't always point, you know, it gets deviated, and still get within a pretty good distance of where I need to go. Now in Vermont, if you get lost, this is a tip for you out there, any bearing of 324 degrees will get you out of any situation, will get you to a road.
Really?
Yeah. Vermont's pretty easy. I mean, you get to a stream in Vermont and you flow down, you walk it down, it will lead to a bigger body of water, which will always lead to a village or a town, because towns build themselves on waterways, of course. And it's also the lowest point of the valleys where they build the roads. So it just makes sense that if you follow any stream downhill, that you'll make it back to a larger body of water and henceforth out to help or whatever. That doesn't mean you should follow one down, though. I mean, like I say, you want to stay in place. You know, if there's an injured party, you want to stay and take care of them, do what you can for them, and wait for help to come to you. There's, of course, a big controversy about that right now because people are being rescued all over the place, and should they pay for the rescues and so on.
It costs a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money to initiate a rescue. I've been on a few of them, and there's a lot of manpower involved and a lot of emergency services. And I don't want to get into the debate about whether some people should pay for that or not. Every circumstance is different. I believe there's a certain degree of personal responsibility on the part of the outdoors person to take care of themselves and not get themselves in the situation in the first place. Not to say that, like I say, though, the wilderness is a dangerous place and we don't have control over everything, so things do go wrong. And to be prepared for that is really important. And preparation, of course, is key. Be prepared as much as possible for the unknowns so that you can ride them out, which is why I say before I go in the wilderness, I have enough. In fact, in Bolton Valley, one of the best backcountry ski areas in the country, in my opinion, because I spent a lot of time there, they have a sign that says, "You are now leaving a patrolled area." Do not, if you're going to leave, if you're going to go beyond this point, it's no longer patrolled, be prepared for an overnight stay.
They say that.
Yeah, and I think that's an awesome thing to say, tell people. Ski areas are now posting they're out of bounds for people who ski out of bounds behind. I ski behind Mad River quite a bit, Sugar Bush quite a bit, and it's easy to get drawn into it because you go where nobody's gone before, and you're skiing down through this beautiful powder. Oh, this is so wonderful! I love this stuff, you know. Well, you get down there, and then you realize, holy cow, I got to go back. I don't have any skins. I don't have any way of climbing. Suddenly, there's an issue. And I've been on trips before where I've had teenage kids ski up to me and say, I don't know where I am.
Oh, boy.
How do I get...
Well, that's a big plus, though, that they admit that.
Yeah.
That's a big plus.
That's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know where I am. Get help. Get support. Forget about the ego and you just forget all that stuff. You got to take care, you've got to get support. I've been lost, and I got lost in Spain one time, and I was really lost. And I asked for help and got it immediately. Like a miracle in a sense for me. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't speak the language. I had no money. I didn't have my passport. I didn't have any money. I was in the middle of the Pyrenees, totally lost. And this gentleman stepped out of a campground with a beautiful woman on each arm and said, I speak perfect English. How can I help you?
I remember you told me about that. Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
So
you never know what's going to happen.
It's there when you need it. I mean, metaphorically speaking, I mean,
but you have
it's impossible to be truly lost, in my opinion. You could certainly, and like you said, don't panic. You can really get caught up in the thoughts, and they can kind of run away with you, and you can follow the thoughts and go right into a panic. But understand that underneath the thoughts, there's peace, and if you can get to that place, then you can make a much more pertinent, rational, supportive decision than you can when you're in hysteria about, oh my God, I'm lost, I don't know what. And even in your own life out there, when you're caught up in the circumstances of your life, it's just the circumstances of your life. It's your life situation. It's not your life. You don't have a life. People think they have a life. You don't have a life. You are life. You have a life situation that you interpret in a number of ways. The religion of most people in this country, based upon what I've seen, is a personal story that they recreate every morning when they get out of bed. This is who I am. This is what I do. It's not who you really are. It's who you believe yourself to be. What is it that makes the story possible? That's what I'm talking about. What is the dimension that allows all of this to be? That's what I get when I go into wilderness, is that peace and that space and that stillness that is, that's probably what you connected to. Mm-hmm. The peace that's there.
Right.
The mind doesn't understand it. It can't understand it. The mind can't know it. It's beyond it. And so, the wilderness is not linear, logical, ordered like a city park. It looks like chaos. It's not. It's harmony. It's perfection.
We have to have the eyes to see the harmony.
Right. Right.
Also, I remember in my days of hiking and backpacking and exploring, there's a certain deep pleasure at being on your own and finding your own way and not depending on anyone else. There's so many things in life that we are dependent on other people. And so here you are in the woods, and it's up to you. I mean, ultimately, you're not independent, but within limits, it's up to you.
It's a very freeing feeling to, at least for me personally, to put a pack with everything I need on my back for any period of time, to a day, to a week, and go out and explore, and the sense of freedom. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm beginning to learn. Understand would be a bad word to use because it's beyond understanding. That what is it that keeps me from being free in my life as it's lived day by day? There's certain things that I'm tied in. There's certain responsibilities I have: a job, a family, friends. That the more I try to find myself in them, it seems like the more I lose myself. So I'm learning how to be free, even though I don't appear to be free. There's no reason why what I find in wilderness can't be found in our culture. I'm not there yet, but that's. Mm-hmm. I'm beginning to understand that I cannot find myself outside of myself, is what I'm trying to say. That I've been looking and looking and looking, and I'm not out there. I'm in here. So you know what I mean? It's like there's a treasure here. Everybody has it. We constantly look out there for it and wonder why we don't find it, or why life feels hollow, because we've already gone ahead of ourselves and sort of prepared the way with our minds. You know what I mean? We've laid down, this is what should be happening to me now. How come this is happening? This isn't what I planned. Mm-hmm. The more I follow the spiritual path, the more I realize it's not a path of life, it's a path of death and a path of loss. Because you've really got to let go of everything in order to find that dimension, that treasure. That's within, Jesus even said, the kingdom of heaven that is within you.
Yes.
He didn't say it was out there somewhere. He said it's within you. But it's mostly obscured by this little story that we create every day when we get out of bed. The story covers up who we truly are, the essence of who we are, with a series of thoughts. And it starts with one thought, and then there's another thought, and then before you know it, you've built up a reality that only exists relatively, not absolutely. And I'm saying that there's an absolute reality that allows the relative reality to be. And that absolute reality, you could call it God, you could call it nirvana, enlightenment. It doesn't really matter. You can't call it anything because it's no thing. It couldn't be. Because if it were a thing, it would be subject to the laws of time and decay and impermanence. And that just isn't real. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
You know, people have called it God, and that's like limiting it in a sense. That which cannot be limited. So this is what I'm learning as I spend more time in stillness, without the noise. And I'm talking about the noise that's, you know, the constant chatter of the mind, which is compulsive thinking in a sense. How do you shut it off?
That's what the Buddhists try to do, particularly.
Yes, they make it a practice to, but even, sadly enough, even most Buddhists believe that enlightenment isn't possible in this lifetime. So they've already even created a belief that keeps them from realizing that it is possible every moment to be free, to come from that place, that there's no practice. There's just a way, there's no doing involved. It's just a way of seeing. And that requires no effort at all.
I'm eager to hear somebody phone in. You're all very quiet. It's kind of a special situation to be able to talk with us on these subjects. I'm sure there's something on the tip of your tongue that you want to say. So please phone in and say it to us, and we listen to what response we might have.
Mm. You know, we talked the last time we were on together. You know, Jesus spent 40 days out.
Right.
In the wilderness. And I believe, and this is not documented anywhere or anything, he probably learned a great deal of what he taught there. That he almost had to separate himself from the culture he was in at that time to get away from it and find out what was real. What's real? What is real? What is the definition of real? The Buddhists will say, and the Zen masters say, that the definition of real is that which never changes. Well, what never changes? That which allows all this to be. Because let's face it, you and I, and everybody who's watching this show right now, and I don't mean this in a kind of gloomy kind of way, but we're all going to die. Everything that you identify with, your thoughts, your perceptions, your knowledge, your house, your car, your clothes.
Everything you've worked for.
Everything you've worked for, say goodbye to it. So, what does that mean for us, if that's the case? This too shall pass, so to speak. Should I put my faith in things that are impermanent? Like Jesus said, should you store up your treasures on earth where moth and rust consume?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or would you put your trust in heavenly things that are permanent? What is a permanent nature is what I'm trying to say. So that recognizing, like I say, the spiritual path is a path of death, a path of loss. When you recognize that everything you experience and all the things I've described, thoughts, circumstances, everything is going to go away, you can relax a little bit. You don't have to spend all this energy to keep something alive which only exists as a thought. Jesus said there's a way which seems right to a man, but that way is the way of death. That was one of the things he said. He said some really cool things. I like this guy. He said some really cool things. When you really look at what he said, and never mind him, but look at the message of what he was saying. He had his own stuff going on. You see that the more you identify with your thoughts as to this is who I am, the more you are detached from that which allows this to be. which is divine presence, intelligence. Like I say, whatever name you give it, you could call it Agatha. I don't care. It doesn't confine it. It can't be confined because it's no thing. You know, it's an interesting...
T.S. Eliot says that you want to go to the still point of the turning world. You know?
I like, yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Shakespeare, I don't even know if he meant to say it. I've been reading a lot of Shakespeare. Shakespeare says some really...
It was his birthday recently,
I
heard.
Yeah, he said, when I do count the clock that tells the time and see the brave day sunk in hideous night. So when you're looking at things from a perspective of time, there's a duality involved. But when you return to the source, the duality goes away. So in our lives, we constantly have a certain time. I have a life. It has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. And we think that's who we are. And it's not. It's an illusion. And we get so wrapped up in that we lose sight of what's true. And there's a point inside of us, there's the pearl of great price, as Jesus said. You know, you find the pearl of great price, you sell everything you have, and you know, exalt in it. And the hardest part for me is that thinking that I could dictate egotistically how I would get that. In a sense that spiritual enlightenment is sort of like an achievement. I can make it happen. You know what I mean? And it's grace that makes it happen. You're probably familiar with that in your own work.
Yeah, sure.
That people don't have any control over it, but all of a sudden there's this yearning inside for spirit, for something that you can anchor into. You know, what is real here? You know, and even Jung talks about that. The archetypes of the development of a human. The final stage is the spiritual stage where there's a search and a longing for that which is real and which lasts forever. And we all have eternal life. It's not something we have to be given. It's it's who we are. And when you recognize that, you can relax a little bit. You don't have to work quite so hard. But I'm sort of, you know, rambling and on here, so, you know, I don't mean to, you know.
No, it's helpful.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
And I've noticed, too, that in my own studies that reading different masters, whether it's Buddha, Jesus, Hinduism, Judaism, Catholicism, they're all really saying the same thing at their core.
Sure.
There's really no difference in any of them. Zen means no mind. It's a Sanskrit word, means meditation. They're all pointing essentially to that stillness, to that dimension which allows all of this to be, which is unchanging and more truly who you are than who you think yourself to be. The cause of all suffering is ignorance of who you really are. So if you're suffering out there, you've lost yourself. You think you can find yourself in your identity, and you cannot. You are not there. You are not in that relationship you want. You are not in that bottle of beer in the fridge. You know what I mean? You're not your distractions. You're not one pleasure to another. You're that which allows it all to be.
Say that again about suffering.
I said all suffering is ignorance of your true self. When you recognize that, when you go beyond the story, when you identify with what allows the story to be, you stop suffering. You can only, like for example, if I'm suffering, think about suffering. There's two ways to suffer. Getting what you want and not getting what you want.
You're in a good form today.
When you get what you want, you got to figure out how to keep it. And people all day long, I see it all day long. I've got to hang on to this. I've got my new car. I've got to keep it. You know, so they polish it, and then the first ding comes along, or the first damage, or the first accident, or whatever. Suddenly, this thing that I wanted and needed and was going to fulfill me has been threatened. I've been threatened. Not really. It just feels that way because it's mine. It's that I've identified with the car. It's mine. It's going to give me my fulfillment. The relationship's going to fulfill me. She's my perfect mate. She's going to make my life complete. How many times have you know, it's a big thing in the West, romantic relationships, romantic illusions, you know, about she's going to fulfill me. Understanding that the longing for fulfillment from a relationship is the same as a longing for a spiritual fulfillment as well. They're really the same. And when you recognize that the longing that you seek for is who you are, and it's never left you, you can always find it where you are by simply asking the question, where are you now? Most people suffer because they project with their thoughts into a future that doesn't exist. It only exists as a thought. The threat of the future, it only exists, and they bring up the past. She did this to me, he did this to me, I did this to them, you know, they're doing stuff to me. Look at the war in Iraq right now. They did stuff to us. We built a story around it. Now we've got to defend the story. And it creates war. It starts inside each of us, and then it gets projected out there, and it becomes a cultural thing because individuals make up a culture. So I'm saying when you get to that place of peace, if there's peace inside you, there's peace out there. But it has to start here, inside. Mm-hmm. So that's... well said. And of course, not getting what you need is... there's a sense of lack. And there is no lack. There's a perceived lack, but there is no lack. Now, I'm not saying that if you're physically ill right now, you can't be happy. It would be stupid to ask you to be happy if you're sick with a disease or... I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that you can be at peace about it. You can still be unhappy, but you can still have some peace around it inside. And I'm sure you've experienced that with some of the folks you work with as they leave. I'm sure we must work with dying folks.
Oh, sure, of course.
That you notice that as they're dying, do you notice the lightness of the spirit coming through them more as the physical form starts to dissolve? Have you experienced that directly?
Mm-hmm.
Or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And most people who have had a death experience but came back aren't afraid of death anymore. Their fear of death is gone.
Yeah. That's I've heard that. I've read, Life After Life is a very good book about that. Right. I've read that in A Tunnel of Light, and I think that's a wonderful, I think that people, what I'm really saying is that as a friend once said to me, die to who you think you are before who you think you are dies.
That's interesting.
And letting go of yourself and what you've identified with does feel like death. I've done it, and it feels like you're losing, but as you face the fear, go into it fully, there's a huge feeling of freedom and peace about letting go of the false self, in a sense. That, and what the interesting thing I noticed for me was as I started to let go of who I thought I was with my thoughts, I started to notice other people more. There wasn't me and my problems anymore. And when that happened, I was able to embrace people more. My world got bigger. It used to be this big. I was sort of like, when you're in your own problems, they're your problems. Mm-hmm. And people out there are doing things to you. And if only that would be different, then I would be happy. That's the common mantra of this culture. Yes. You know, when that happens, then I'll be happy. Yes. And so you're postponing happiness now, and the only place where it can occur is now. What is here now?
Like with the phrase, when my ship comes in.
Right, when my ship comes in. And what you're missing is what's going on in the moment, and that means you're missing everything. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I followed, in my own personal life, I followed the spiritual path as a means of getting security and comfort. I've recently discovered that there's none of that. What I did discover was that I have a fuller life where there is suffering, and I feel lots of things. I feel sadness, happiness, I feel everything. So that was an illusion that I was looking for the bliss of, like, you know, if once I found this, I was going to be all happy all the time. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of horror out there, too. There's a lot of tragedy. I mean, I don't watch TV very much, but just turning on the evening news, there's a lot going on that's not okay.
Absolutely.
But it's all part of the whole. It's all part of that dimension I'm talking about. I don't have control over what's going to happen here. And I'm recognizing that allows me to relax a lot more, too. I don't have to go out there and make peace. I can make peace within me, and that's okay. But I've got to let go of how it manifests itself out there. You know what I'm saying? So, in understanding, yeah, this body isn't permanent, and someday it's going to die, and that doesn't mean I don't take care of it. It just means that I don't have any control over how I die. But while it's here, I'm going to do my best I can to eat good foods and exercise and do what I can. Same with my relationships, same with work, everything. Understanding that at some point, it isn't me, and I'm going to have to say goodbye to this. And so I don't have to be quite so serious about it, because it's going to be gone. So it allows you to lighten up a little bit. And when you lighten up, you get start to see other people, and then you can help them, and you can deliver the message. Suffering is self-created by a false interpretation of reality.
That's a profound thought. Maybe you should repeat that again, because there are some of our viewers who are suffering, I'm sure.
Yes.
And they're...
The more you identify, suffering is a false interpretation of reality. So you have me perceiving something, let's say it's you, and let's say you're my ex-wife or something and I owe you money or something. I interpret that as bad, okay? Like, I owe you money and you're angry with me and things aren't going well between us. What I really am is the gap between the perception and the interpretation. If I can be in that gap, then things can just be as they are. And I'm not resisting what is. Why resist what is? It is what it is. In that moment, I can either change it by communicating with you, or accepting it, or just waiting. And when you wait from a space of no drama inside of you or no story about what you're doing to me, then all of a sudden you realize all around you that there's a level of support that you didn't have before. But you've got to make it, you've got to make space inside yourself for that to happen. You cannot force transformation, but you can make a space for it to occur within you. So that's what I'm saying, that, you know, a woman cuts you off when you're driving your car and you get all mad. Just let it go. Your interpretation created suffering inside of you. You're the source of it. Or do you ever notice how you're driving in some place, you're in a hurry to get there, and all of a sudden a song comes on the radio, and you don't want to get there because you want to listen to the song?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
What changed? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You're the source. You are the source. And it's a very freeing way to be. And then whatever happens outside of you, you can just watch. You don't have to think, this is about me, the little me. You know what I talked about earlier? The I, the ego, the little me is being affected by this. There is no me. When there is no me and somebody calls me an idiot because I cut them off in traffic, I could laugh. Who are they talking to? You know?
I hear you.
That's what I think all these spiritual masters are pointing to. And I think that in our culture, thank God, there is now an awakening process happening amongst ordinary individuals to recognize this dimension that folks like yourself have devoted your lives to helping people to get to. Jesus was trying to help people. Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, everyone was trying to get people to recognize, not to find the salvation in them, because it's not in them, but the message that they gave that the salvation is there already. So it's cool. Thanks, Bill. All right. So.
Well, as usual, we need to sum up.
Here we started out with navigation and ended up with how to end suffering, which is what.
Well, that's important to a lot of us human beings.
And some people don't want to give up their suffering.
No,
It's an identity for them.
Yeah.
And they get what they want from people. They get taken care of by their suffering. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. I ask for help too. And it's there for me. In more surprising ways, like for instance, that whole thing with being lost and that gentleman stepping out of the campground and saying, I speak perfect English, what can I do for you? It's always there for you. It's just in a sense we can't, when we're lost, we can't see it because we're so wrapped up in the story that we tell ourselves over and over again that we can't see what's here now. What is here now? People can't sleep at night in our culture anymore. They got to have Lunestra and all these other drugs to help them sleep at night because they're carrying the same thoughts they have, in their head, which doesn't exist in reality. That's the crazy part. These thoughts only exist in your head. They're not out there. But they can appear to be out there because you keep projecting them out there, and that's what you'll get. You want war? The world says, you want war? I'll give you war. As long as you come from the world of thought, you will be subject to the laws of thought. And the story will have an impact on you. The world of form out there will have an impact on you. People out there can do things to you if you identify with what out there, with where you are.
Would you say, in trying to sum up here a little bit, that you've learned a lot of these things from your hiking and your trail exploration?
Mm-hmm. Long periods of... what happens out there is things quiet down.
They do.
The mind quiets. And when the mind is quiet, no thinking, you begin to realize what's here now. The peace that's here available right now. There's a sanctuary in each of us that we can go to that is the source of who we are. Mm-hmm. That is more essentially who you are than who you think you are. And that dimension, that sanctuary, that place is available to you at any time. It's unknowable to the mind. And that's why people struggle with it, because they want to understand it. You cannot understand it with the mind. It's unknowable. You can only experience it directly by suspension of thought and just sitting and stopping, thinking, stopping everything. Then you get that peace that's available to you now. The peace that Jesus talks about, that he says, the peace that surpasses understanding. Yes. That's exactly what he meant. I'm at peace and I don't understand it. So.
Well, our time is up.
Thank you very much for...
Thank you for being
Thanks
here.
for putting up with me.
No, it's no struggle at all.
No struggle at all.
No suffering either.
I like your program, Struggles of the Spirit. There are no struggles in the Spirit. We're going to change the name of your... Just kidding.
I can pretty much do whatever I want, so I do whatever I want. It's kind of like Cartman on South Park says, whatever, I do what I want. I do what I want. So, I love painting. I can't picture myself not painting for any reason. So, if I lost my arms, I would find a way to paint with my feet. If I lost my feet, I'd paint with my mouth. I'd find a way. And And there's a lot of artists in this area that are just amazing, and that's one of the reasons I'm here, is because there is such a vast art community here. Probably since I was around 8 years old, I started taking art seriously. I won like a chocolate bar at an art contest in our art class, and you know, ever since then it's been a passion of mine. I do pretty much everything. I'm always doing something, and drawing, charcoals, pastels, wash. I work in various mediums. Oils are my favorite.
Oils?
Yeah, oils are my favorite. I took a lot of art courses in high school, and I took a year of college at CCV here in Burlington. But no real formal art education, no. It's all been pretty much, learn as I go. And I've shown my art once in my life, and that was at the City Hall here in Burlington. The show wasn't a success in that I didn't sell any pieces or anything, but I enjoyed setting it up and creating the art for it. I still have several of those pieces. In fact, I've donated some of them to different charitable causes. But
Her ladyship's and mine are not without their links. My father, too, is no novice when it comes to carrying a sword.
Are you up there, Dickie?
Answer. Did you tell him?
Tell him what?
You must have told him.
Told him what?
Where we were going.
Can they mention something?
You fancy doing that? You practically invited him.
Hyacinth, he's here now. He just can't keep running.
I will not be found on stately premises in the company of someone who drinks beer in his undershirt.
Only when he can afford it.
I don't think Hyacinth will welcome it when we do find her.
What about that car park attendant? I rather like that car park attendant.
Oh. I don't know why you want to spend the afternoon with Hyacinth.
I don't want to spend the afternoon with your Hyacinth. It's your father who's senile, not me. We're here to rescue poor old Dickie. He's the one I feel sorry for. I just thought someone should rescue him and get some bevies down him. The hell do you call that?
It's art.
Art? and wrap me chips up in it. Here, Rose, what do you reckon to this?
They're coming this way. Come on. Richard!
This is not a public area, you know.
It's all right. I'm a friend of the family's. Her ladyship and I are old acquaintances, so it would be very unwise of you to start getting officious.
Oh, yes, but...
We're merely hiding from some unacceptable person who's trying to pursue us. There are such odd people about, I'm sure you understand. How was I to know that that was his lordship? He looked like the gardener. He must be very low down on the aristocratic scale if he looks like a gardener. I think it's irresponsible. He's no right to look like a gardener.
A masterpiece. My, oh my.
Life on the open road with Mole and Rat and Toad.
Masterpiece Theater takes to the open road with the delightful creatures of Kenneth Grahame, Rat, Mole, Badger, and the irrepressible Toad. Bob Hoskins and Imelda Staunton star in the beloved childhood classic.
There's no time to waste.
The Wind in the Willows on Masterpiece Theater.
Tomorrow night at 9 here on Mountain Lake PBS.
Must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
Is that you, Mum? Yes. Well, dressed like that, it'd better be. You work late. There's a lot to catch up on.
You're always working late.
Well, I got into the habit. There was never much to come home to.
Well, thanks.
Well, when you were married, I mean.
Which time?
Both times. Have you eaten?
No. Want me to whip us up something?
That offer lacked conviction. We'll eat out.
Right, I'll get dressed. What's that?
Oh, it's a manuscript of Lionel's book. He's finished the revisions.
I thought he must still be working on that. I didn't see Sandy in the office today.
No, I gave her the day off to recover from working with him.
Is he difficult to work for?
Bloody impossible, according to Sandy.
I always thought age mellowed.
Wait till you've aged.
Here we go. I asked you to read it.
No, I had a copy run off.
What do you mean, ah? You want to know what he was doing all those years you lost touch.
Oh. Well, all right, I do.
It's called nostalgia.
No, it's called nosiness.
I'll get that.
No, not like that, you won't. Oh. Hello, Lionel.
I'm going to Norwich.
Well, have a good trip.
Not immediately. The day after tomorrow.
Oh. Why are you telling me?
No, I didn't want you to think I'd just disappeared.
Again.
I once got kicked in the teeth by a mule.
Where?
Korea.
They look very good.
What do?
The teeth?
These are my own.
Must have been a very puny mule.
All right, I embroidered. It nearly kicked me in the teeth.
Were you wounded in Korea?
Only by the mule.
Oh, hello. Hi. It's a chap I knew once.
His daughter?
I doubt it.
Anyway, he's rather effeminate when you come down to it.
That's probably why he's with such a masculine-looking girl.
She probably smokes a pipe.
A meerschaum.
Sherlock Holmes job. Look, are you busy tomorrow?
Not especially. Why?
I thought we might have a day out.
Oh.
Well, I'm off to Norwich the day after, and then, well...
Great Yarmouth.
Well, it's hard to say with the lecturing thing. I mean, sometimes dates just crop up and I'm off. And, well, I've never been much on postcards.
Or phone calls.
No.
Sort of farewell, is it, tomorrow?
I wouldn't put it quite like that.
How would you put it?
Look, do you want to come or not?
Oh, all right. Yes.
Thank you.
I don't know why Judy went to Jacques Tati. We're much funnier than he is. What do you think?
I don't know, do I?
Well, what does one wear for a day out in the country?
Cowboy hat with Kiss Me Quick on it?
Oh, you're in a very helpful mood.
2 hours that Japanese film went on. Seemed like 2 centuries.
You went to see Jacques Tati?
I went to see whatever was on. I was being discreet. Then I had a terrible pizza afterwards. I got back here at 2:30 in the morning. And what are you doing? You're in bed, snoring your head off.
What do you expect me to be doing?
I expected you to be with Lionel.
In bed?
No! I don't know. I expected you to be together anyhow. I'm not seeing any more Japanese films for your benefit, I can tell you that.
What are you looking for?
A review of the film I saw. I'd like to know what it was supposed to be about. Where's Lionel taking you, anyway?
Buckinghamshire.
What, all of it?
We used to go out there if he had leave and I could get away from the hospital.
Do you have a car?
No, pony and trap. Well, of course he had a car. Lost in 7.
Did you steam the windows up?
Tiny little thing it was.
Yes, but did you steam the windows up?
Of course we steamed the windows up.
And now you're going back?
Not to steam any windows up.
Why then?
Oh, I didn't. Have a look round.
I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places.
If there are any left. As I've told you, things move on.
Still?
There is no still.
No. All right. Still.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. All set?
Yes, all set.
I should buy a can of Dear Mister on the way if I were you.
What's she talking about?
All our yesterdays.
Oh. I've hired a car.
Oh, nice.
Not that one, that one.
Nice.
That said Wales. We don't want to go to Wales.
We turn off.
This isn't the way we used to come. I don't remember any of this.
Well, you wouldn't. It wasn't here then.
I assume Buckinghamshire's still here?
Oh, we turn left there.
Where?
There!
We want to turn right, not left.
You have to turn left to turn right.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Well, one of us has to, don't they?
This is better, isn't it?
Oh, it's much better.
It's still very pretty around here.
I haven't been this way for ages.
We're nearly there now, aren't we?
Must be.
We'll have lunch in that little restaurant. What was the name of it? The spinning wheel? The wagon wheel? I know it had wheel in it.
The copper kettle?
That's it. It's a garage.
I can see it's a garage.
Perhaps we've got the wrong place.
Perhaps they've knocked it down.
Excuse me. I'm looking for the copper kettle.
There's a hardware shop down the road.
Not the copper kettle, the copper kettle. I'm looking for a restaurant.
I thought you said you were looking for a kettle.
We're looking for a restaurant called the Copper Kettle.
Oh, I see. I've got you now.
Do you know where it is?
No.
Well, we think that it may have been here before the garage was built.
Oh, I wouldn't know about that. I've only been here a year. When was this restaurant here, then?
1953.
1953? I wasn't born in 1953. My dad might know.
Well, do you think you could ask him? I'm just out of curiosity.
Not really, no. He's in an old folks' home.
I think we'll drive on. I'll just see if the chap with the red flag is ready to walk in front of us again. Well, at least the war memorial's still there.
Well, we couldn't logically have expected it to stay the same, could we? We hadn't.
That's very true.
Anyway, let's eat here. I'm hungry.
No, there's another place I want to try.
Is there?
Yes. Smashing pub there. What was the name of it?
What, the pub?
No, the village. Upper something. Upper Marlow.
Marlow Bottom.
That's the place. Don't take us 20 minutes. Oh, now look at that for idiot parking. Shouldn't be allowed on the roads, people like that. They can't even park properly.
Well, it's you, actually.
Look, I've driven Bren gun carriers.
Shame you don't have one with you. Smash your way out.
That's not funny.
Oh, leave it till somebody moves. Let's eat here.
Oh. We're eating at Upper Marlow, and that's that.
Bottom.
Bottom. That's it. Now, if I can just get my leg in.
You'll never squeeze in there. Breathe in.
And stop laughing, it's not funny.
Listen where I'm standing. I've got an idea.
What?
Let's eat here.
Excuse me, sorry. Can I, thanks.
Must be a flat surface somewhere.
Try the top of my head. Well, it's a disaster, isn't it? I'll take you home, but we can't get into the car.
You'll feel better when you've eaten something.
I've got something to eat, but I can't eat it.
Well, have a drink.
How?
Well...
Thanks. I suppose if I do the same with the plates, we might get a chip or two off.
No, I don't think so.
Well, where do all these people come from, anyway?
You're a bit old to be asking that question.
Oh, this is grotesque.
Look, the table behind you.
Excuse me.
Sorry. Thank you. There'd be no point in asking someone to clear this lot, I suppose.
What do you think?
Ah. Yeah. Well done.
That's better.
Yeah. Cheers.
You bring the knives and forks.
Did you put that on?
Well, of course I did. The place needed a bit of atmosphere. Actually, this isn't bad.
It isn't hot either.
True.
If the car's got a sunroof, I can climb in through it.
Assuming you'd left it open.
Mind you, the way things are going, if it was open, it would be pouring with rain.
You used to be such an optimist.
You sure?
Yes. You used to believe that lovely, cheerful things were going to happen to us, and they always seem to.
I expected them to, I suppose.
And now?
Now is now.
Oh, let's go.
Where?
Well, I thought we could stroll around the cemetery and cheer ourselves up.